Let
So
me ask you a
lots of that.
question.
Who you work?
Let me
Wait,
ask
you're working the Fatu kid, right?
Jacob
Who you
Fatu,
working
that's
at
right.
FSW? I think it's a Fatu. That's a pretty. Have you ever
Yeah.
wrestled him before?
Once in
You have?
Arizona, we had instant chemistry. We talked literally about nothing, went out there and just murdered it.
That's a pretty marquee matchup for an indie show. He's like the MLW champion,
yeah.
right? Or like, well, yeah, and you're the NXT.
He
That's actually
was.
pretty.
Now it's
Yeah,
Hammerstone. He's great.
that's,
Fatu's as a person and as a performer is great. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, I told everybody the hottest guys on the indies right now is like to me was like Scarlett, Kevin, MJF, Selena, and Fatu. I wasn't I wasn't far off. Let me ask you a question, Scarlett. You spent years in the indies and all the that you have to go through in the indies to just be somebody, and then you went to Impact and you ran into some more and then
I have
when you
no idea what you're talking about. Not a
right,
clue.
I'm sure you don't. And then you go to WWE, which is a whole different amount of what really surprised you or took you back or that you did not expect from WWE when you got there, good or bad?
I didn't expect. Oh God, I'm trying to think which direction I want to take this because there's a few things that surprised me.
Yeah.
On the good side, the women's locker room was one of the best women's locker rooms I've ever been in. So
Right.
that really
Which is
surprised
saying
me.
a lot, right? Because the women are always
Yeah,
catty. Yeah.
catty, competitive. Everyone's fighting for their 5 minutes of television. But NXT, the women's locker room, everyone was super supportive of each other. After the women's matches, we'd be standing by the curtain, hugging and applauding each other for doing a great job. It was just really, really great environment in that way. The thing that surprised me, though, I thought the training was going to be a bit different. I had some good training and I had some bad training.
what did you think it was going to be like?
I thought it was going to be a very organized system, and like they would have had like a perfect way to get anyone from zero to become a great wrestler. But maybe that's not the trainer's fault, because I think a lot of times like you take people who are professional athletes, football players, models, and it's really hard to make these people good wrestlers if they don't actually love and care about wrestling. So maybe maybe the trainers get a bit of a hard time for that. But I thought they were going to be able to turn anyone into a great wrestler, and I don't think that's possible now after being there. I think some of the best training I actually got was on the independent scene, honestly, and I think everyone who is in WWE, they'd be better for it if they spent a little bit of time training on the indies. Like you get something different from training on the indies.
But what about
You're working in front of a crowd.
And Kendrick was also there's a lot of great trainers. Scotty was amazing. Kendrick's amazing. There's a lot of really good trainers. But I'm so happy I spent all the time on the indies instead of going straight there. And I'm glad I didn't train there from scratch.
Well, let me ask you this. So because I don't know anything about how that system works down there, but how many people like at the performance center in a day? Say it's a training day at the performance center. How many people be there?
Probably. Well, we were there over 150, I'd say.
Okay, so let's say it's 150.
We started at 8 a.m.
150 people, right? How do they evaluate? Do they do evaluation of like where you're at? Because it's a lot of people, and you got some people like you that came from the indies. You got some people that are starting from scratch. They've never been just to go to the performance and they start from scratch. Was there like an evaluation period where like did they say, okay, you're kind of like at this level, so let's stick her here, or did they just kind of like everybody just kind of gets in there and trains? Like what's the evaluation? How do they evaluate the talent and like where you're at like compared to the others?
They had different levels for classes. For example, Kevin, he was put straight into Shawn Michaels' class. So there's an intermediate, beginner, advanced. He was put straight into the advanced course. So he would be in Shawn Michaels' course. I was in intermediate. I started with Serena Deeb. And then they mix and match. And then sometimes they say, oh, this person needs to spend a little bit more time in this person's class because they could learn more technical chain wrestling, things like that. So they'll move people around. Yeah, so they do separate everybody.
Was there ever any talks of you actually wrestling?
Not until we were talking about main roster. The managing was going so well, and they were really happy with our characters and our presentation. And then when they wanted to call us up, that's when they wanted to see what I looked like wrestling by myself. They wanted to see what he looked like without me, without the entrance, without the smoke, without everything. And they saw my first match, and that was it. They said, we want you to wrestle. And they never really looked
That's
at or
what's
talked about me matching again.
that's what's so weird, because like when girls are usually hot, they can't wrestle, and you can do a lot of. Because I remember the
Thank you.
first time we went to Mexico, and I told you this when you were there. I couldn't believe that, not knowing the language, not knowing the style, you know, you went out there and you killed it. You know what I'm saying? And I remember when you did the
Thank
Canadian
you.
Destroyer, and yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say to that, and I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your ass or
Yeah,
anything because we're here, but like,
Blow it.
and Conan has said this too, and Disco said this as well. Sometimes it's not about the entire massive repertoire of moves, and that's not a
Mm-hmm.
backhanded compliment to you. I'm not doing Canadian Destroyers, but it's about the connection with the audience.
right.
And you can teach someone all of the moves in the world. You can have your next Bryan Danielson or your next Dynamite Kid, but if he's not able to connect with the audience, all of that is useless. And that was one thing that I had noticed about you immediately when you and I first met, is that you were able to connect with people
Thank
more
you.
than anything right away. And that is something that I felt very empathetic and sympathetic for people at the PC who were just coming in from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
especially during the pandemic when nobody was there, not having the ability to learn how to connect with people, because you can put them in the PC forever and they can train really hard 7 days a week, hitting the weights and doing conditioning and hitting the canvas and learning all that. But if they don't,
You're
You're
muted.
muted. You're muted.
You're muted just now for some reason.
hold on a minute. What?
No,
You're
you're
good.
good.
Now
You
you're
good
muted.
here?
Now
You're
you're
good
good.
now. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
I was just saying, my apologies. I was just
It's
saying,
all good.
if they don't know when to use it, then it becomes useless.
Or
Let me
worse,
ask you.
bro, or worse, when and you've been the victim, both of you, of this. I have too, and when for political and ego reasons, they don't maximize what they have in front of them. And that pisses me off more than anything, because let me just say this real quick. The first time I saw Scarlett, uh, you probably don't remember this. You were at Impact. There were a
Mhm.
whole bunch of girls there for like a tryout or some. Do you remember this?
Remind me.
Okay,
I probably remember this.
You were standing up against a wall. There were a whole bunch of girls. There must have been 10 of them. Okay, and they
Mm-hmm.
were like coming in for tryouts, and and you start hearing all this stuff. And I was like, bro, this girl just standing there blows away all
Oh.
these 9 girls put together. If she has any idea of who she is or what she wants, she's gonna be somebody. You know what I'm saying? And the minute you did the smoke show, that was all she wrote. And same thing with Kevin. Kevin had an instant connection that you can't be taught with the crowd. That's why you got over so quick everywhere you went, whether it was Las Vegas or Impact. So that was very easy for me to put you guys together.
Yeah, you were
But
the first.
yeah.